Hello everybody, welcome back to Backyard Sim Racing. Thanks for joining in again. Got another video here for you today, and this one's going to be dealing with Rfactor 2. It's been a while since I've jumped on Rfactor 2, but I figured since I gave Race Room another try, I would give Rfactor another try. The reason why I got off of Rfactor is because I had a tremendous amount of time figuring out the force feedback. And what it ended up being is that I just had some issues with the game that I had actually downloaded and installed. It was not faulted, but I think it was just an older version. I didn't realize it. Either way, I was having some issues. So what I did was I did a complete uninstall. I installed everything I had that I had actually installed and purchased off the ISI website, which is the company that actually makes Rfactor. Everything I got from there, I removed it all, and then I repurchased actually the game, the newest version of the game off of Steam, because Steam really does a good job of keeping you updated, getting you the latest and greatest and all that, and I've had no issues with Steam, so I figured I would give it a try. And lo and behold, that really worked. This version of the game is working a lot better, and the problems I was having with force feedback are working great. So hopefully that will continue on. But I thought we would do a little video. Now I am kind of doing this live, so we're going to do the, most of the time I record my voice afterwards of this. I'm going to do live because there's some things I want to show you. So anyways, when you go and install, if you have not installed the Steam version, I recommend doing that because it is a lot smoother. It really is a lot smoother. The ISI website has a lot of cool stuff on it, and of course, they still make the game, but the Steam version is just better. So go get yourself a copy of the Steam version. You'll be much more impressed. So when you launch through Steam or through your desktop icon, this Rfactor 2 launcher comes up, which is different than any other game that I've ever played. It's interesting. It's a little confusing at first, but when you get it figured out, it's actually very helpful. So over here on the left, what you've got is everything you can do here from the launcher. You can launch a single player game, you can launch a multiplayer game, you can go into dev mode, which is for developers trying to make apps and things to work with the game. So that's pretty cool. And then you've got this information center, which I'm at now. It tells you all the new tracks that have come out. This is your download manager, which I'll get to in a minute. You've got a few settings just for this is not game settings, this is just the launcher settings. So that's pretty cool. Now, Rfactor 2 has some base content, but the game thrives off of modding, the modding community. So they've got third-party modding that actually goes along with the game. When you install the latest version, those third-party things will come along with the game. And as you can see, all this stuff was installed when I just downloaded the game today. A lot of this is modded, modded cars, modded tracks and stuff. So that's pretty cool. I can say the Steam version that I downloaded today has a lot more standard stuff that downloaded with the game than the about a year ago when I downloaded it off of ISI's website. I was limited with cars. This time there's a lot of cars, a lot of tracks and stuff like that. So that's a plus right off the bat. You can go out yourself and find mods as well, and you can put them in the folder similar to the way you do at any other game that allows mods. The difference is once you put it into that folder, you have to come here and you have to refresh this list. If I had anything new, which I don't, up here at the top, you would see some new information, and then there would be some unchecked cars or unchecked tracks, and then all you would do is you would click on the one you want and you'd click install, and then it's in the game. So it's a little bit different. So that's the launcher, and it works pretty well once you get it figured out. So I'm going to go ahead and launch the game in single player, and what we're going to do is probably just hop in some car, random car, and take a leisurely stroll because driving and talking is not my thing. But I'm going to run you through some stuff in the menu that took me a little bit to figure out before we do that. So here we are in the main menu that comes up. I have to say this is a lot better than what it used to be. It looks better. It's simpler and easier to figure out. My wheel is in the way, but down here at the bottom you've got exit options, and then you've got different series you can check. You track your car and then your session settings. So something that I want to note, because this confused the hell out of me for a long time, is if you go into series and you change this series, then it will limit you on what cars you can pick in this track menu and this car menu. So I had all these things downloaded and I couldn't find any of them. I couldn't figure out why. That's what it was. Make sure you have all tracks and cars checked. Once you have all cars and tracks checked, then you can actually go to the different tracks, and you have access to all of them. Same thing with the cars. So over here in the tracks, I haven't downloaded anything new. This is what came with the game, and as you can see, there's a ton of tracks. Some are real world tracks, some are made up tracks, and then some are real world tracks that don't have the name you may be used to. I guess they just don't have the license credits to do it. So, so they've just named it something else. For example, Brianza 2.0, that is actually Monza. So they just renamed it, but it looks the same. That's actually a pretty good track, so that's probably where we'll go. A few others, Lime Rock, they were able to use that. That's a pretty decent version of Lime Rock. Monte Carlo, Palm Beach. Let's see here. There's a bunch of them. You just got to go and check them out and see what they've got. We're just going to go to Monza just because it's easy to drive around. It's mostly straightaways. Cars, same thing here. All of these were in the game except for I have downloaded a GT3 mod, which comes with several different cars. Camaro, Ferrari. I'm sorry, Camaro. I don't know what that is. Let's look and see what that is. I think it's Porsche, maybe? Yeah, that's the Porsche. Okay. Ferrari, BMW, Corvette, McLaren, Mercedes, and it's got different GT3 versions, and there's different specs depending on what ADAC, blank pane, if that's how you pronounce it. I'm sure I just butchered that. I apologize if I did. GT Tour, it depends on what you want. The car has different specs. So we're just going to hop in the Mercedes. For some reason, I really like the Mercedes. I'm a big fan of the Mercedes, so I took it for a spin earlier, and it's pretty good. So once you pick your car and your track, then you can just go to race. But before we go to race, I'm going to back out of here, and I'm going to go to the options and show you around the options. So I hope this is not boring, people, but I'm trying to show, if you've never played this game, it can be a little confusing and hard to figure out. The display, I've got everything set on high. This is all easy cheesy stuff. You can figure this out. Just go down and figure out what you got. I changed it to miles per hour, obviously, because I'm in the States. You can figure this stuff out. Whatever your system can handle, you change those things. Controls. This was a pain in the ass to get figured out, to be honest with you, because it was recognizing my Thrustmaster wheel, but when I would click one of these to set the gas pedal or the brake pedal or whatever, it wouldn't do anything, and everything was hooked up correctly and it's working fine in the other games. It just wouldn't work. What I had to do was I had to detect the Thrustmaster wheel again, even though it said it was recognizing it. Once it detected it, then I had to get completely out of the game and come back in, and then it allowed me to set all these buttons and pedals to work. Over here, we've got some important stuff. The force feedback is way too strong in this game for a standard budget wheel. And when I say budget wheel, I mean the TX, the T300 RS, Fanatec, CSR, those wheels, those are, when I say budget, I don't mean cheap. I mean ones that people can afford. I think the force feedback in this game is designed for like direct drive wheels or something crazy. So you get a lot of clipping unless you turn some of these things down. I turn force feedback smoothing down. That's a preference, but you don't have to. But for whatever reason, this car-specific force feedback multiplier, you have to turn that down or you get very bad clipping. And it will not save. That drives me crazy. I cannot figure out how to get it to save. Every time I come back into the game, it's always back at 1.0. And for most vehicles in the game, it needs to be down probably at least 80 for the TX and T300 wheel at least. And if you're wondering, in my control panel, my Windows control panel for my wheel itself, I've got it set at 80. So that's that. Audio, I didn't really mess with at all. Video resolution, here's something you need to note. If you have a single monitor, then it should automatically be set to what you want. I obviously am running triple screen setup. So the resolution was set. It was set at 60 hertz, which is the max that my monitors can do. Yours may say 140, 144, depending on what your monitors will do, but I think it'll recognize it automatically. It recognized mine. VSync, I have that turned off because I use adaptive VSync through the NVIDIA control panel, so it overrides what you do in the game. Window, you want to be full screen. Widescreen HUD is checked automatically. I haven't unchecked it. That's fine. This one right here, though, if you're running triple screens, you have to make sure that you check multi-view. Then, every other menu in the game, you can make a change and then go somewhere else, and that change will save. But for whatever reason, in the video settings, if you change anything here, you have to click this apply change button or it won't refresh it. Now this is very important for something I'm going to show you later on when we actually get into the race. So click the multi-view and then click apply changes. That's extremely important. Plugins, I haven't really messed with that too much. I've got all, well, I don't know why they call it, oh, because plugins and difficulty. So yeah, I just read that, I'm a dummy. So difficulty is the main thing you're going to mess with here. I do have invulnerability on because if I smash into the wall or whatever, I want to keep going. But everything else I've got turned off. Stability control I've got on low because in the rear-wheel drive cars in this game, if you don't have it on, if you don't have stability on low and traction control on low, it is extremely difficult. I mean, it's harder than any other sim. I play all my sims with no assist on, but this one is extremely difficult if you don't turn the stability on low, at least, and the traction control on low. Now, if I got into a competition and it requested that I didn't, of course I would not run with it. But just for messing around and getting used to the game, I do have those set on low. And the other thing that I always set on all of my sims is anti-lock brakes. I put that on as high as it can go because in real world racing and real world driving, cars have anti-lock brakes. So unless you're racing some old school F1 car from, you know, the 80s or, you know, even in an older car, you know, then you would turn it off. But new cars, they have it, so I'm going to use it. Replay, I don't mess with. Showroom, I don't mess with. User interface, I don't want anything to be on my screen. I'm sorry, user interface is just this. And I haven't changed any of that. I like the way it looks now. I don't know what the other options are, and I don't really care, to be honest with you. On-screen display, you can pick whatever you prefer, depending on what you're doing. There's a couple different choices. It doesn't matter what I pick because I turn all that shit off. I don't care to use that at all. I don't want anything on my screen except for what I would actually see if I was in the car. Everything else I typically put on a tablet or my phone, but I haven't got that set up with this game yet, so I will eventually. So I'm going to accept all this because I like it, and then we're going to go to the race. And as you can see, it is showing Monza. And one thing I like about this version of Monza is you can actually race on this oval. I think iRacing is the only other game that you can actually race on the oval for whatever reason. I don't know why that is, but no other games will let you run on that oval, and I like it. So this version of Monza actually lets you choose, and you can go on either. Okay, so now that we're here, I'm going to show you this real quick. Down at the bottom, you've got leave track, or if you had already started, you can restart race. You've got restart weekend, next session, and finish, because everything you get into is an actual race weekend. So that's how that works. You've got a garage, which I haven't tweaked with any of that yet, but that's just, you know what the garage is. Suspension, chassis, advanced, blah, 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 blah. Settings is just a smaller version of what you had in the game settings that we looked at earlier. Display, controls, audio, blah, 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 blah. Now, because I changed it for this car, it did save it, and it's still at 0.80, this car-specific force feedback. But if I change the car or get out of the game and come back to this car, it will be back at a 0.1, which is too much. The other thing you can change at this menu is the steering wheel range. And I don't. I actually... if you guys hear that, what that is there's someone else testing in this session. Sorry about that. So I keep it on vehicle set, and I allow the game to set the wheel to what it's supposed to be. And then I also like some minimum torque on my force feedback, so I set that to 10%. Audio difficulty, blah, 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 all that stuff. You can change all that stuff again, but it's just repetitive to what we did the first time. So let's get in here. So, all right, we are in. We're going to just look around the cockpit a little bit. This is actually a mod. This is not base contact. This is one of those GT3 cars that I got. They do look good. Some mods look great. Some mods look not so great. That's going to be the same as in any other game. It's dependent on what kind of effort was put into the mod. But I can tell you the cars that come with the game look pretty good for the most part. Now, Rfactor 2 is not... its claim to fame is not graphics. If you're looking for a graphics intense, very realistic looking game, Rfactor 2 is not going to be for you. But if you're looking for a game that has very good physics, maybe even the best, this is definitely a game that you would like to try. Now, one thing I want to show you, if you had checked on for your triple monitor, your multi-view settings, this has got a very similar setup. I'm sorry, because of my minimum force, my wheel is going to bounce, but we're just going to have to deal with that. And I could turn it down and make it stop, but I don't care. Now, what I want to show you real quick before we hop into racing and I tell you my thoughts and views on how this game is, when you first do this, the side monitors will be stretched like if you didn't have them set up for triple screen. Same way they are when you first get into Assetto Corsa, those side screens are set up. A lot of people don't realize that there's a way to adjust the bezel in this game. So Rfactor 2, you can adjust the bezel width, you can adjust your field of view, and you can adjust the angle of the side monitors on the fly in game, and it's very easy. So I'm going to look down, you probably can't see it, but on your keyboard, what you can do is you're going to hold Control and hit the equals button. And that's going to bring up something, so Control and equals. This will only come up if you have gone into your menu and you have actually turned on multi-view and hit apply changes. You can hit Control and equals over and over again. If you do not have that multi-view enabled, it's not going to come up. It'll drive you crazy. I did that too. So once that comes up, you get this, and this works exactly the same as the one in the Assetto Corsa. It's beautiful. Plus and minus your field of view at the top there. Gap, which I'm not going to change, but this gap changes the gap in between your bezels, so you can make that perfect. I've got mine set up perfect. The angle of your monitors I'm not going to change, but that's what will bring them in or make them farther away. But as you can see, I've got these set up the way they should be. And so yeah, that's Control and equals will bring that up. Once you get it set, you just close it out like that. So I'm going to take a leisurely, oh, I cut it off. Let's crank back up. Excuse me. There we go. So we're just going to take a leisurely stroll, and I'm going to tell you what I think about the game. And I do like how you kind of, I think I just went the wrong way. Don't tell anybody. Oops. All right. So, and that motherfucker just ran into the back of me. Oh my gosh. Anyways, I think I saw some damage. Yeah, I see a bumper floating around back there in the rear view. Things to note about this game. There is a pit limiter that you have to map. You have to map the button, speed limiter, and you have to manually turn it off yourself, or it'll keep that limiter on the whole time. The other thing is if you stall out your car, you have to have the ignition button mapped, as well as a, and yeah, I'm not going as hard as this thing will go. I just want to be able to talk and drive at the same time. You have to have the ignition mapped and the starter mapped, or the car will stall out and you'll never be able to get it to start back up. You have to exit out of the game and start over. So I've got all that stuff mapped on my steering wheel. Also, because I was having so much trouble with the force feedback, even though or with the wheel inputs, even though they're working fine now, it still has me worried. So I've got a button to reset the force feedback on my wheel. So just in case something happens, I can reset it on the fly, and I don't have to reach over and try to look for my keyboard. So as you can see, graphics are not that good on this game. They're not, let me get out of these guys' way, they're trying to pass me. Graphics are not that good on this game. It's nothing compared to Assetto Corsa, it's nothing compared to iRacing, and it's definitely not in comparison to Race Room, which I think has some of the best graphics right now that you can get in a sim. But it's good, it's decent, it's livable, you can live with it, it's not terrible. And the reason is because the physics are just amazing in this game. The force feedback, when you get it dialed in, it's perfect. You feel everything the car is doing. If you get rid of the clipping, you can feel everything the car is doing. There's enough weight in the wheel, but it's not too heavy. You can feel when the front and the rear of the car is losing grip. It's really, really good. Depending on what vehicle you're driving, the sounds are great. Some are not, but in this car it's pretty good. You can hear the engine, you can hear the whine of the transmission. One thing that I do not like, and I haven't found a fix for yet, is there's too much G-force movement. I like to know that I'm bouncing around in the car a little bit, but this is just too much. Watch as I hit the throttle and hit the brake. Now, I know my head would do that a little bit in real life, but I don't want it to do that so much. I would like to minimize that, and I can't find in the setting where I can actually minimize that or whatever. But other than that, it's pretty good. So physics are good, graphics are okay. The AI seem to be pretty good. You can adjust them a lot. I haven't. How I have them adjusted right now, I'm gonna tell you what they are. They're tough and they are not forgiving at all. If you're in their way, as you could see, they're gonna take your ass out. That's what they do. So now I'm gonna actually go for a fast lap, and I may not talk as much. I'm just gonna kind of show you guys what this is all about. Probably needed some better gears in this. I do like this version of Monza because you can go, but you can see in my wheel, if you can see that, I know it's dark in here, but you really, it's moving around in my hand a lot. Like I really know what's going on, which is pretty awesome. I feel like I'm just babbling now, but I'm trying to concentrate on what I'm doing. Driving and talking is not my thing. But I can say that the Steam version of this game is so much better. And I think it's remotely the same. It's just that the fact that Steam keeps up with your updates. They make sure you've got the latest and greatest. Whereas if you get the version right off ISI's forum, you have to do all that. And that's a pain in the ass. That's the one good... Steam is a pain in the ass in itself. But the one good thing about it is it does keep up with all your game's updates. Now you can go on the ISI forums to find mods. But there's various locations, just like I said, of course, so there's a lot of places. But they're pretty good about adding, if there's a really good mod and they see it, they'll add it to their website, or they'll make it available. If you refresh in that menu I was showing you earlier, it'll just automatically become available. So that's pretty cool. So anyways, I don't want to make this too long. You saw the driving. I told you a few things about the menu system that kind of threw me off. So if you haven't given it a try, Rfactor's only about 30 bucks on Steam. It's well worth it. And there's a huge online community. I can't wait to get in some online races with those guys and see what it's all about, because it is really, really cool. I do like this game. Do I like it as much as iRacing? I can't say that I do, because my heart is just really, you know, my heart is in iRacing, and it's really just because of the way they have online pretty much. You know, the world of online is pretty much taken by iRacing, and that's the majority of what I do is race online. And obviously the graphics aren't as good. And I'd say the graphics, or graphics aside, the physics are good, equally as good in both games. I wouldn't say these physics are better, they're just different. It just feels a little different. So if I had to rate the game on a scale of a 1 to 10, it would be about an 8 or a 9, but because of the graphics not being so great, I have to give it a 7. But if it wasn't for the graphics not being so great, it would be just about as high up on the list as you can get, because it's a great game. So Go check it out. I hope this kind of give you some insight on the game if you've never tried it before. Go check it out, Rfactor 2. Get it on Steam. It's 30 bucks. It's cheap, you know. It's as cheap as going out to eat for 2 people one night, you know, so you'll get a lot more fun out of this. Anyways, I hope you enjoyed. I'll get you another video up soon, and I will see you in the next video.